Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be reviewing the approach and missed approach, as we can say, of a Sukhoi 33 on board the Russian aircraft carrier. And it looks something like this. That is not the normal procedure. It didn't go as expected. Quick checklist before looking at the Kuznetsov, the Russian aircraft carrier, the Sukhoi 33 Flanker D, the aircraft that just flew the approach, and the mishap by itself. First step, subscribe. Second step, thumbs up or thumbs down if you hate me. And jingle. The Kuznetsov. It is the flagship of the Russian Navy. It had several names. First, it was designed as the Riga. Later, it became the Leonid Brezhnev. It was launched like this. It conducted its sea trials as Tbilisi. Sorry about the pronunciation. It's a town in Georgia. And it was launched in '85. It was designed in Ukraine. It is a huge boat. When I mean huge, it's 43 to 58,000 tons, 305 meter long. Just to give you a rough idea, the French Charles de Gaulle is 261 meter long, 40,000 tons. So it is bigger than the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, yet smaller than the US supercarrier, so about 100,000 tons. It does have a sister ship.
First rule in government spending. Why build one when you can have two at twice the price?
But the sister ship wasn't finished before the collapse of the USSR, and it was later sold by the Ukrainians to the Chinese, and it became the Liaoning, China's Navy first aircraft carrier. They have more under construction. We'll talk about it in another video. Kuznetsov is not strictly to speak an aircraft carrier. It is an aircraft carrying cruiser, and that is a huge difference. And the reason it is so important is the fact that it was built in Ukraine. It is trapped in the Black Sea. Due to Montreux Convention, you're not allowed to cross the Turkish waters that enable you to enter or exit the Black Sea with an aircraft carrier. So having an aircraft carrying cruiser enables you to navigate your way around Montreux Convention and enable the Kuznetsov to exit the Black Sea. This cruiser, it means something. And what that means is it's carrying a lot of munitions. If you look at Western aircraft carrier, you have fleet around it with missiles and stuff, but usually the boat, the aircraft carrier by itself, does not carry a lot of munition. It is not the case with the Kuznetsov. He can carry 12 7-ton P-700 Granite missiles. They are huge. It can take anti-submarine munition, anti-aircraft munition, but not like 12 or 15 or 20 like most Western aircraft carriers. It can take 192 missiles, a navalized version of the SA-15, so the missile that was used to shut down the aircraft in Iran earlier this year. So we're talking about several hundred missiles on board the Kuznetsov, therefore it is a cruiser that happens to be carrying aircraft. No steam catapults, but arresting cables, so the aircraft have to use a sky jump to take off, and those aircraft are of a specific type. They're Sukhoi 33 or MiG-29K. K stands for, pardon my French or my Russian, Korabelny, which basically means navalized version. So when you see Sukhoi 27K, it means navalized, MiG-29K, navalized. The Sukhoi 33 was designed in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, and it came as a replacement of the Yak-38. So now the naval aviation, the naval carrier wing is fitted with Sukhoi 33 and MiG-29K. The famous Viktor Pugachev did the first takeoff and landing back in 89, and they had some deflector issues. You know, those deflectors that rise behind, basically the engines are so massive on the Sukhoi 33 that they had issues. After 6 seconds, the water cooling pipes inside those deflectors would explode, and not very good in terms of safety. So they had a couple issues creating all that stuff. Just to put stuff in perspective, we're talking 1989. Remember Top Gun? 86. So the US air supercarriers, F-14, all that fleet, that's 86. We're talking 89. They had the Yak-38 before, but come on, okay, just put stuff in perspective. The Chinese, they use a variant of the Sukhoi 33 that they call the G-15, and all those aircrafts are basically fitted with gun, air-to-air missiles, and they can carry bombs or missiles. Air-to-ground missiles, anti-surface missiles. The Sukhoi 33, 18 to 33 ton, it is a huge aircraft, a Rafale, empty weight 10 tons. So the Sukhoi 33 empty weight is about 80% more than the Rafale. As you might guess, it might not be possible to take off with your maximum takeoff weight because you don't have a steam catapult. It's required from you to take off with less speed. Therefore, the Sukhoi 33 is slightly different from the Sukhoi 27. You have folding wings, you have bigger wings, you have air-to-air refueling capabilities, you have bigger engines, you have canards. Please, the idea is to have more lift and a bigger landing gear. The nose wheel is, the landing gear is bigger as well. So we have the Kuznetsov, we have the Sukhoi 33, and not much were built. We're talking 20 to 35 aircraft-ish were put into construction. So it is a pretty small navy. Now let's have a look at the footage. So what we see is an approach on board the carrier, and looks like the aircraft is willing to land. Okay, so what we can see is 4 arresting cables. That looks normal. Nobody's crossing. That could be a reason to do a light wave off like that. Before getting too close to the boat, he hasn't passed the rear of the boat yet, he starts to pull back. So why would you want to pull back? I don't know. Usually if you have to go around because you're maintaining an AOA, you're going to go full power and you're going to slightly put the nose up. But under no circumstances are you going to pull back on the stick like this. You can see the rear of the aircraft, the elevators actually really move. You have the hook that is lowered, so I think it survived just for a reason of inches. Imagine right at that point your tail hook grabs a cable, it's going to be a catastrophe. The cable are usually so strong, the tail hook is usually so strong, what's going to happen is it's going to bring you down. It's going to stop your speed and it's going to just do like a pancake and you're going to crash yourself on the deck of the aircraft carrier. Maybe at some point it will just pull the hook away, but it's going to slow down the aircraft and it's going to most probably lead into a crash. Actually, I have no real explanation for what happened, because from what you can see, if you go image by image, you can see that it looks like the tail hook is touching the deck of the aircraft carrier. You can see some puffs of smoke as if the hook was touching the deck. It looks like it was like touching and moving back away, then touching again and moving back away, then touching again the deck of the aircraft carrier. And it looks like perfectly synchronized to miss the wires, which is, I must say, rather insane. You see there is like this puff of smoke before the first wire, then you see a couple more, and then what's really interesting is you see the hook moving. Looks like the hook is moving at the end. So I really don't have the answers because the Russians usually don't share their experience. If somebody has a link of an interview with the pilot, it will be extremely useful. Before studying this video extremely closely, my understanding was that the hook was just above the wires and wasn't in contact with the ground. When you zoom in, when you look more in details, it looks like the hook touches the deck of the aircraft carriers and moves back in. So either there was no arresting cable, which is unlikely as looks like there are cables in position, or maybe it really just skipped every single wires, which is just insane. But that's a perfect example of naval aviation. You never know what's going to happen, and even less likely stuff to happen might actually happen. What I'd like to share with you guys is, yes, the guy got lucky, and I think the debrief looks something like this. I saw it once in the French Navy as we're coming, just leaving the port. We had the aircraft flying in from Landivisiau. I was already on board, and I was with the Airbus looking, acting as a safety officer, and we saw a Rafale coming in. And just at the last minute, the last couple seconds before touchdown, there was a personnel, a guy from the flight decks that decided to run across the landing strip, the landing area. So the LSOs ordered a wave off for safety, extremely light wave off, some things they usually don't do. And the aircraft pulled back, and we really saw the aircraft pulling up like this. Wasn't as much as this, far less, but it came pretty close, and I remember that wasn't very fun. No damage was done, and it came around and landed perfectly, and the personnel on the deck got thoroughly debriefed. But it can happen. Late wave off can happen. If the pilot overreacts, he's going to pull like this. And it's a tendency when you want to go around to try to pull like that, something you have to fight. Again, for this accident, what we can say is really look into details. Looks like the hook is skipping on the ground. So maybe he's the luckiest Russian alive. And interesting to see how massive those aircraft are and how fast they arrive for landing. So I think it's an interesting video to share the dangers of landing on the boat, and conditions were great, weather was great, sea state was great. Imagine doing that at night. Stay safe.